Welcome to Command HQ. It is Tuesday, September 26th. We're here for an emergency stream. Agent X, we want to keep this really brief, but you had some comments about this recent decision by Judge Engoron in New York.
Yeah, man. So it's kind of so he issued it today, right? This is a judge who held Trump in contempt. What was it, like $100,000 a day? And then you and I helped to expose him and got that contempt sanction lifted because we went to another hearing that he had with an attorney, Robert Wallach, quote unquote celebrity divorce attorney who owed over $500,000, stole COVID funds, refused to comply with subpoenas, no-showed depositions, and was sued by his landlord and asked to be held in contempt. And you can go online and find the video of basically this same judge basically letting this lawyer who flouted the rules off the hook. So Ergeron, I've heard his name pronounced a bunch of different ways. But, he was, during the hearing, he was being bossed around by his clerk, female clerk. Looked like he was drinking from a wine bottle, or some, like a Tanqueray bottle or something. It was very weird. And so we kind of busted up that sanction against him. That continuing sanction. I don't remember what it was. It was like $100,000 a day, right?
Yeah. 10,000 or 100,000. It was a year ago, so.
Yeah, so.
It was still a large amount of money, even for a billionaire.
Yeah, so we kind of exposed the corruption on that, where he lets this attorney off the hook who stole COVID funds, refused to show up for depositions, refused to turn over documents, even after court orders, and basically walked in and said, is there any way we can settle the case? And you can Google the hearing. It's Robert Wallach. It's on YouTube. So this judge has kind of extraordinarily been hit by the First Department, the appellate court, multiple times now for basically a lot of, I guess some of the claims are barred by the statute of limitations. They actually went and got a writ of mandamus, which is pretty outrageous, pretty extraordinary, to force him to just set which claims are going to trial. This was, I guess, last week. I was telling you about it. Only we talked about it on here, but they were going to trial in like 2 weeks, and they didn't know what claims they were going to trial on. And he just totally just ignored the appellate court ruling. Said they were going to trial on everything except, so there's 7 claims, but he granted summary judgment on the first claim, which was a claim under the Martin Act. It's executive law, something or another in New York. But basically, it's a statute, it's a civil enforcement statute that the Attorney General could bring against a corporation or a company in New York. And you don't have to show any intent, you don't have to show any reliance, as long as the numbers are false, whatever false means, then the corporation can be held liable. And in this case, one of the remedies they were asking for was not only damages, but they wanted dissolution of the Trump entities, a ban on Trump owning any business in New York, and basically put Trump out of business. And Trump had tried to create, I don't know why he didn't do it sooner when he knew that the Attorney General was sniffing around, but he left all his assets in New York corporations, pretty much. I think the vast majority of his assets are New York corporations. He tried to start a Delaware corporation and transfer the assets, but I think it was too late and they moved and got an injunction. But we're talking about Trump Tower, um, Mar-a-Lago, his golf courses, all that is owned by the Trump organization, which is subject to this order. And everyone's reporting on it. This is a devastating loss for Trump. It puts the Trump organization out of business. But what no one is really reporting on is what this scheme is that they're trying to pull. The scheme is basically, so if you scroll down to the bottom, right? Scroll down to the bottom of that order. Are you there?
Yep, I'm scrolling. Okay.
Last page where it says ordered. All right, scroll up. Scroll down just a little bit. So they sanctioned his attorneys, right? So one of the things that they did, see, it says within 10 days of the date of this order, the parties are directed to recommend the names of no more than 3 potential independent receivers to manage the dissolution of the canceled LLCs. So what they're going to do is they're going to appoint a receiver to basically run these companies and wind them down, which means they're going to have a receiver. Basically, they're going to appoint somebody to basically cash checks, to rack up big bills, claim that the corporate structure was so messy, and probably make uh, uh, $20-30 million off of just probably more than that, winding these corporations down and these assets. But so what the really insidious thing is, so they're still going to trial on starting on Monday for counts 2 through 9, which I think are like conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, conspiracy to falsify business records. But that's beside the point. The biggest thing is going to be damages, right? And this is not a jury trial. This is a bench trial. So this judge has already shown a clear inclination to stick it to Trump as hard as he can. And Letitia James, baby killer herself, admitted she's had multiple late-term abortions. An actual murderer. She asked for $250 million, right, in damages plus to the state plus. Let me see exactly what she asked for. I have the complaint up here. So they asked for his revocable trust. They asked for a new trustee to be appointed, which is essentially what they've done. So this is what they've asked for. Awarding disgorgement of all financial benefits obtained by each defendant from the fraudulent scheme, including all financial benefits from lenders and insurers through repeated and persistent fraudulent practices of an amount to be determined at trial, but estimated to be $250 million plus prejudgment interest. So this wacko, if you go to, we'll show the tweets in a minute, but basically what they're going to do is Trump is now financially bankrupt. He has no control over his money, over the vast majority of his assets. He's probably going to get Mar-a-Lago sold. But that's what they're going to do here is they're going to have a damages trial, and they're going to award some astronomical amount of damages. It's probably going to be over $250 million.
Oh, it's going to be way more than 250 million.
It's probably going to be closer to 2 or 3 billion, I would say.
Oh, absolutely, minimum.
And what they're going to do is they're going to, and this is the insidious part that no one is reporting on, but we know from personal experience that this is what they will do. is they will. So Trump, this independent receiver, um, what they're going to do is they're going to basically dissolve or wind down these entities, which means selling off the assets, which is no. So they're going to sell
Yeah,
Mar-a-Lago.
that's
They're going to
exactly
sell the
yep.
golf courses. They're going to sell
At
Trump Tower. They're going to sell all of Trump's buildings to wind these corporations down
at bargain basement prices too.
at bargain basement prices, and then they're going to use that money to satisfy whatever damages
Judgment.
judgment that Engoron, Justice Engoron orders. So
Hmm.
Trump is essentially bankrupt right now. He's broke.
Mind you, this doesn't even include attorney's fees. So, you know, Letitia James or whatever, I mean, she could easily collect a couple
I
hundred
don't think
million
she can
dollars just,
collect.
well,
I
maybe
don't
she
think she
can't
can
because she's an
collect
attorney
attorney's
general
fees.
and it's coming from the state. But there's also a lot of other things here. They're going to try and hit him as hard as possible in as many different ways as they possibly can, collaterally at the same time. But this
Oh,
is
they're going to hit him with more sanctions. They're going to hit the attorneys with more sanctions, but they're going to hit him with an astronomical judgment, and then
mhm.
he's not going to be in control of his assets. This independent receiver, who's not going to be independent, is going to sell the assets at bargain basement prices,
Barbara
and
Jones, she's a retired federal judge.
use that money to sell, use that money to satisfy whatever money judgment that Engeron orders, and Trump is going to be penniless after
So
this.
does this quote unquote independent monitor, Barbara Jones, who's this retired federal judge, is she appointing the receivers for all these different companies?
No, she's just a monitor. So if you look above it, it's just so each side will propose three potential independent receivers, and then the judge will select one. He could select one from either Trump's list or
Oh, I
um,
see. Okay.
with the attorney general's list, or he could just appoint somebody himself. But this is very bad for Trump. He just lost control of all his assets, pretty much, and they're now conspiring to basically they've basically seized his assets, right? They've seized his assets, and now they're going to hit him with a judgment and sell those assets so that he's broke. And that's one aspect of this, right? This was always notice, like, this is very much like Alex Jones, right?
I was just gonna say that.
They summarily found him liable um, without a trial, and basically, took some pretty egregious ad hominem attacks at Trump and his lawyers throughout this decision, and it's literally written like there's typos all over it, like the citations are not correctly formatted. It's written like you would get if you were a first year law student, you would get a D writing this. Like if you were clerking for a judge, you would get this handed back to you with massive red marks. So this guy was rushing to get this out before the trial, but he's also a dummy. Like he's not a very intelligent, thoughtful, you know, well tempered judge. He doesn't have a judicial temperament. Let's just say that. Um, but yeah, it's and you see, like, if you pull up those tweets that I sent you, if let me find it on here, what page this is. So basically, like, one of the things with Mar-a-Lago was, I guess Trump had estimated it was worth in documents something like hold on, let me find it.
200 million, something in that range.
No. I had it up here earlier. Materiality. Okay, here you go. The Trump Tower triplex. Seven Springs Estate, Trump Park Avenue, 40 Wall Street, Mar-a-Lago is the most egregious. Okay, here it is. So the tax assessor, this is what he relied on, the tax assessor, who always undervalues property, right? Always undervalues property. So he says that this is on page 26 of the document. It says from 2011 to 2021, the Palm Beach County assessor appraised the market value of Mar-a-Lago at 18 million to 27.6 million. Notwithstanding the financial statements values do not reflect these land use restrictions. Donald Trump's financial statements from 2011 to 2021 value Mar-a-Lago at between 426 million and 612 million, an overvaluation of at least 2,300% compared to the assessor's appraisal. Like, as you know, like tax assessors always undervalue property. Like, you know, like we have property, right? Like, I'll give you an example.
Always. Yeah.
Like my house. I'll give you a number. I'll just give you like say it's 600,000, right? That's what the market value is of it, 600,000. The tax assessor will come in and usually assess it at like 150,000. It's always undervalued because they don't want to drive up property taxes too much. But to rely on this, and then if you pull up those tweets, you see the properties around it that are on like 0.2 acre parcels that are selling for 20 and 30 million. Yeah, the average home price near Mar-a-Lago is 40 million right there. So 37 million, 28 million, 18 million, 25 million on, basically a quarter of an acre property. Less than an acre. And Mar-a-Lago is 20 acres. So,
outrageous.
Like, it's pretty egregious, right? It's super egregious. What an egregious ruling. This Engoron is a total clown, hobo judge. He should.
So, this was the basis for which Engoron claimed that Trump and Trump's companies were committing fraud, right? By claiming that, taking out loans for values that are significantly higher than,
right?
Yeah,
they
whatever
didn't
they were.
Take out loans. They just had to. All they had to do was overvalue an asset
in a financial statement that was publicly reported.
Well, it doesn't even have to be publicly reported. It's a private company, so it just has to be an inaccurate statement on their financial records. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
But to rely on a tax assessor's estimate instead of the comps in the
I don't even think tax assessments are that low. I mean, here, if a property is valued at $600,000, the tax assessor is usually saying it's worth about $400,000, maybe about 70% of what it's actually worth. And
it's way less than that.
To go down to, like, if this property, let's just say it was Mar-a-Lago is worth $400 million, just for math purposes, and for Engoron to go and say that this is worth $27 million in 2023 is so well below that even a tax assessment for that property. And you can see here, I mean, half acres are going for $23 million.
Yep. And they don't have the building or the infrastructure on it either.
True.
Those are just single family houses. They don't
look at how much beachfront property this is too. I mean, that's like almost a city block.
He's got intercoastal waterway and beach access. It's pretty wild.
These houses in the middle that are valued at 23 and 37 million dollars have no beach access.
Nope.
It's just it's so wild. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, okay, so we wanted to keep the stream short. We'll keep it short, but I wanted to ask one major question, Agent X, and what do you think Trump's recourse is in this situation? Now, obviously, common sense would say let's get your assets out of New York, but
He
that's
has no recourse.
unlikely. Yeah, there's no recourse, right? There's nothing
He's
you can
done.
do.
He's got a.
Uh,
He's basically gonna be. He didn't play it right. Right. He should as soon as he was installed in the White House in 2016, even before, he should have been moving all of his assets outside of New York. He should have went to a friendly state like Nevada, Delaware. Delaware's got a much more mature judicial system. Florida, he could have gone anywhere else, but New York was absolutely gunning from him from day one. Um, and he should have moved everything immediately, and he didn't. And this is what happens. This is one of the things that you and I talk about is that the further you get away from these people, the less likely they are to touch you. So getting the fuck out of New York should have been priority number one for him. He should have been parking his assets in a very conservative friendly state. Leaving them in New York was incredibly dumb. No matter how much it costs, he should have been moving assets, setting up new corporations, transferring assets. It's incredibly dumb on his part.
I wouldn't even have kept it within the jurisdiction of the United States. I would have tried to diversify as much as possible outside the country, but
I
you
mean, I
know,
don't think he's got anything. I mean, you look at this order, and I don't think he's got anything. I mean, I don't know what his assets are, right? Um, his total portfolio, but the order goes through like all the buildings he has, the golf courses, even the golf course in Scotland. So presumably they're owned by that New York corporation, and they're going to be dissolved.
mm,
And that means they're going to sell. Like he's going to get hit with a massive judgment, and they're going to sell off the property. And they've already, the trial is starting next week, and he sanctioned this hobo judge, Engoron. Um, uh, Hardy sanctioned his attorneys $7,500 a piece, which is wild. Which means, they're going to have to be extremely buttoned up. They're basically have to keep their mouths shut during trials. They're going to get sanctioned again because he's going to be looking for it, um, and or he's going to hold him in contempt. I mean, you already see, Alina Haba was the lead attorney on this, and after that $1 million sanction, she's no longer on this case. Her law partner took it over. So as I said, predicted, she's in the crosshairs of the disciplinary committee. There's no doubt about it. If she was taken off this case,
there's a lot to unpack with everything that happened, including the timing of the order, which happened at the most advantageous time for Biden and one of the worst times for Trump in this 2024 election campaign. And of
they
course,
basically he was like, if you read the order, there's typos, citations aren't right, they're not formatted correctly, like like things aren't capitalized right, periods are missing. Like it's a mess of an order, but he was trying to get it out to hit the primetime news today before the debate tomorrow.
should we play that video with Engeron if we can?
Yeah, play it.
Before we end the stream here.
Hobo judge.
So
I
this
mean,
is a
apart and aside from the fact that the the video is obviously parody and kind of tongue in cheek, but what kind of judicial officer, what kind of judge shows up to his chambers slumped over, you know, um, slumped over, hair not combed, shirt not pressed, belly sticking out, has his, you know, 30, 40-year-old air conditioner in the background. He just looks like a total slob. And what kind of person would show up to a hearing looking like this? Any type of hearing. What kind of judge would show up to a hearing looking like this? It's ridiculous. But,
Well,
that's what we say. He's a hobo judge.
Engoron spent half this hearing socializing with the attorneys and not addressing the matters at hand. But anyways, we'll play this.
Want to see the judge causing Trump so much trouble? Want to see the judge holding Trump in contempt? Just watch this wino drink from a 40 during a hearing.
I'll paste the link for this in the live stream, but feel free to go and like the video and watch it. Speaking of liking videos and following, please do follow the Twitter account as well as the Command HQ YouTube account. Agent X, anything else you want to say before we close this out? Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I think it's pretty dishonest that the media is not talking about what the ultimate sinister plan is, right? Like, they used the civil case to basically take his financial footing out from underneath him, right? Like, he's a billionaire, 2 or 3 times over, no doubt. But, his assets aren't liquid. Like, how are you going to sell Trump Tower? It's not like, even if this order didn't come down, he's not super liquid, if that makes sense. But
yeah, real estate is like the most anti-liquid assets you can possibly have. That's why whenever you flee a country, you want to take commodities with you that you can carry on hand. You can't take Trump Tower with you, and that's why they're so easy to target in the judicial system.
Yeah, well, so
I wonder what this is going to do to the campaign, really. I mean, especially the
Well, that's the
flights
thing,
and
right?
rallies.
He's gonna be living off campaign donations. I wonder how the campaign plane is structured. If it's owned by one of the Trump entities or what, because they might immediately halt him from
That's what
using
I was
that plane.
thinking. Yeah, they're going to try and impound that plane ASAP to keep Trump from moving around the country.
I mean, it depends on if it's an asset or not. It won't be instantaneous because they'll have to appoint a receiver. How many days did they have? Was it 10 days or something like that?
Roll bar, where is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
10
there we go.
days from the
10
date
days.
of the order. So it's not going to be instantaneous, but within the next 3 to 4 months, they will likely impound his plane, particularly if he gets a massive judgment against him in the trial next week.
And if they can't impound the plane, they're going to try and levy something against any of the vendors supplying gas to the plane or maintenance, anything like that. They're going to do anything possible to keep Trump in Florida and away from these rallies.
Trump's DJT Operations One LLC bought the plane.
So, does Trump have an option of selling his interest in DJT, particularly if the plane is inside of this trust fund?
He can't sell anything.
Can't
His
sell anything at
assets
all.
are frozen.
Yeah. Everything is frozen.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, he can't do business in New York anymore. So he can't sell company assets because the certificates, I guess the business registrations have been canceled.
Well, I think there's something to be said here. If you compare it to what happened with Alex Jones and this damages trial where you're predetermined to be guilty before you even go into trial, which is exactly what's happening to Trump here. But at least Alex Jones had the vision to get some of the assets out of InfoWars before this happened, so he could, and these are allegations, by the way. I don't know this for sure, But it seemed like Trump was like hamstrung during the presidency, because any financial dealing when you're president, when you're, you know, a president of the United States, is going to be highly
Yeah, but
investigated.
the kids could have done it because the kids were
True.
running the business.
I think they're going after Don Jr. and Eric. And
Yeah,
even
they're part of the
Ivanka.
lawsuits.
Yeah. So they're going to try and bankrupt all of, you know, the whole Trump family. And that's outrageous. You know, it's one thing. I mean, it's terrible what they're doing to Trump, yes. But to go after someone's family the way that they're doing, and, you know, okay, you can say that about Hunter, but Hunter actually committed crime. But, you know, this is a business thing, a long-standing, you know, Trump real estate empire, and Eric and Ivanka are collateral damage in this whole process. And I'm not defending them, but I'm just saying that's the appearance. You know, I don't know that much about it, but and you know, here's the other thing: Biden was out at that picket line today in Michigan, I think, the United Auto Workers strike, and it was, see how coordinated this whole thing is, that he's got positive PR. Oh, I'm standing up for the average worker in the United States. Meanwhile, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff that came out today too about Fauci. So they used today to kind of like launder all of this information simultaneously, but that's a whole different stream. But anyway, okay, so
Hold on. So, it's interesting. So the plane is owned by DJT Operations One LLC. Let's see.
it was just renovated.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a Delaware corporation. So I think
The
the
plane is immune.
outside. Yeah, the plane is outside. So I mean, I guess he has that going for him.
I mean, it's one positive among many negatives.
I mean, I guess it
Look
will
on the bright
depend,
side.
right? I guess it will. Hold on.
But they'll still go after vendors, you know,
No. I guess
especially
it'll depend on whether or not who owns DJT Operations One LLC. If the Trump organization in New York owns DJT Trump or DJT Operations One LLC in Delaware, then they might be able to still seize that asset, since the Trump organization in New York owns that Delaware company, if that makes sense. Depends on who owns it. I think Michael Cohen said that there were like 700 different Trump subsidiaries.
I didn't watch the Michael Cohen live stream today when he was celebrating this order, but did he, if you watched it, Agent X, did he say anything in there that was interesting, or I mean, was he just
He
gloating
took all
the
the
whole
credit
time?
for it.
I
He
bet.
took all the credit for it because Letitia James said at the initial press conference that it was all due to his cooperation that they were able to file the lawsuit. So, who knows? It's going to be a mess trying to unwind these corporations. But yeah, I don't know what to say about it.
I don't even think it's going to be $2.5 billion. I think it's going to be more like an Alex Jones judgment of.
It's going to be something astronomical.
Yeah, it's going to be like $500 billion.
And that's the thing. They're going to use that receiver to sell off assets to satisfy whatever judgment, and his only recourse is to go through the appellate process and try to get stays. And it's incredibly difficult to get a stay, particularly of a money judgment in New York. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Isn't Judge Engoron ignoring the remand involving. So Judge Engoron set a trial date for these claims, but didn't clarify exactly which claims were going to trial.
Yeah, he
Where
completely ignored it.
so he's ignoring this
Well,
appellate
he
order and
no.
decision.
So the appellate court said some of these claims are likely barred by the statute of limitations, or
Right,
are
right,
barred
right.
by the statute of limitations, and sent it back to him to clarify.
He never
And
did.
and he basically said, "Fuck off." All the claims are going to trial, and conducted no analysis as to the statute of limitations.
By the way, so Engeron's probably going to retire after this trial or the end of the year. Um, is this kind of like his one chance to just do whatever he wants, screw everybody, and have absolutely no accountability because he's going to retire anyways?
We'll see how old he is. He is.
They always line up these judges who are about to retire when they really need to smack someone down.
All right, so he began his career in 1979. So he was what? He was 25 then. Let's just say he's 25. So
41 plus 2, 3. So 43 plus 25. So he's about 70. I thought the mandatory retirement age in New York was 70. 43 plus 25.
69. The mandatory
69.
retirement age is 70 for a judge, but they can go to 75 as long as they're recertified by the chief judge.
Okay.
Every
so he's gonna retire.
He's looking rough for 69, that's for sure.
He is, yeah. So again, yeah, my thinking on that was correct. I just had an inkling because it's happened to me so many times. They set these judges up who are like right about to retire, and then they just hit you with like the, the most petty, cheap shot kind of order, and then they like, you were talking about cheap shots in these orders. It's all over the place, all over the place. You just read it, and it's just like one left hook after another by Engeron against Trump legally in this decision.
Well, and you see that the media lies about it too. Like I sent you that CNN clip where they said that Trump had overvalued his assets, and that Trump said he was living in fantasy world or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what he did say, that Trump was living in fantasy world and not reality. But he was saying that in regard to some of the defenses that he raised, like whether the Attorney General's office could actually prosecute the action under the statute, and whether there was a statute of limitations violation. Just like they just lie about it, and to make it seem worse than it is. I mean, it's the decision is terrible. Like Trump is done. Like I would be more upset over this than those indictments.
Oh yeah.
It
seems that
like,
way.
how do you even defend yourself now? You have no assets. Like, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Michael Cohen said that most of his assets are in New York corporations, and he had 700 subsidiaries. So, like that DJT Operations One LLC is probably owned by a New York entity. And if that's the case, I think that they're going to get liquidated. All these assets are going to get wound down. It's just going to be bad.
I'm really surprised because Trump was a student of Roy Cohen, and Roy Cohen, if you remember, before he was disciplined by the bar when he was dying, by the way, it was egregious that they disbarred Roy Cohen literally on his deathbed. But these are the people who run New York. He put all of his assets, Roy Cohen did, in the names of his friends and his family, presumably mostly his friends. And he still lived in the same house. He still drove the same cars. He still did the same things. But there's nothing the legal system could do to Roy Cohen because legally these assets weren't in his name. So there's something to be said about Roy Cohen having some foresight in the situation where Trump, for whatever reason, lacked that same premonition that something bad was going to happen here, and it has.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't really know what to even say about it, man. It's bad. Um, they basically cut his financial legs out from underneath him. So now he's going to have trouble. I mean, I guess he's going to raise money on the campaign to defend these criminal actions, but eventually that's going to dry up, particularly if they try to knock him off the ballot.
Yeah, and there's really no major precedent for something like this. I mean, when was the last time you heard of a billionaire get indicted like this and have all of their
Well,
assets seized? I mean, billionaires have become indicted, but not in the same way that Trump has.
I think
And
it's funny that they're parading around Cassidy Hutchinson, right?
yeah,
She's 23 years old
she's
and
a
wrote a
liar.
memoir about her life at 23 years old, well, however, 24, whatever she is. Let's see how old she is.
She's a little older than that, but she's relatively young.
27 years old. So she was 24 when she left the White House, somewhere around there. So wrote a memoir, and withheld stuff from the committee. So it's interesting, right? Like, this was a coordinated attack, and they're parading this poor girl around who is super inarticulate, is not well spoken, can't formulate. Like, you can tell that she's been given talking points, because I was watching an interview with Jake Tapper, and he was asking her questions, and she would not directly answer a question. She would veer off into some talking point. But she's not well spoken. You can tell she doesn't really know what she's saying. But they admitted that Allison Ferrara, the one who has viciously gone after Trump, who worked in the White House and now is on The View and is viciously gone after him, works for CNN too, that basically Hutchinson told Ferrara everything she knew, and then Ferrara told Liz Cheney, basically relayed it. So Liz Cheney knew what to ask during those depositions, I think the third deposition.
Right.
So she could get the dirt, right? So there's this basically unethical back channel, which is highly unethical, even though it happened not in a court, but in the in Congress. But they're parading her around, and it's just going to be one after the other, and this is really bad. But this takes the financial legs out from under him. He's going to have trouble. He's just going to have trouble in general. I mean, he's not going to be able. Like, they're going to hit him with a massive judgment, and they're going to dissolve his. I mean, they've already ordered the dissolution of his assets. They're going to sell those assets off to satisfy some massive Alex Jones level judgment. And meanwhile, he's probably not going to have much to his name, and he's going to have trouble defending these 90. I mean, that's part of the strategy, right? That's part of the strategy of these judges and these prosecutors and these Democrats is, what do? They in order to destroy you, they smear you in the media, right? They leak it to some liberal loser, something to smear you, right?
Yep.
But then they will issue court orders. They will bring prosecutions against you to financially deplete you.
Number two.
Until you are broken and you're unable to fight anymore. And Trump didn't, unfortunately for him, he didn't have anybody in his corner telling him, saying, hey, you need to get the fuck out of New York immediately. Like, you need to withdraw. And that's really unfortunate. I guess he's not as he's not as smart. I guess they never envisioned this would happen. And probably Elena Haba was telling him, oh yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. This is a bogus thing. They're never gonna win. Even if they do, it's gonna be some small judgment. And like, nah, they absolutely kneecapped him financially with this. And they're not really foreshadowing what they're going to do. The media narrative is very contained right now, that Trump was found to have committed fraud. But what they're not reporting on is this plan with the receiver to dissolve the assets, hit him with a massive judgment, sell the assets to satisfy this massive judgment that's incoming, and basically leave him penniless. It's all part of the strategy, right? So he can no longer get up on stage in a debate and say, I'm a billionaire. I've had to, like, he's it's not just the fact that the fact that they found him civilly. Like, I sent you that clip from CNN where he had that black woman, who's their lead legal correspondent, say that he had a presumption of innocence in this civil case. There's no presumption of innocence in a civil case. It's preponderance of evidence. There's no presumptions either way. What an idiot. What an affirmative action hire. And she's trying to say that to make this seem worse than it is. But this is part of the scheme, right? And the next thing they're going to do is they're going to fucking they've got that judge what's his name, Marshawn.
Yeah.
They're gonna rig a jury and they're gonna find him guilty on all 30 of those counts.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna wait till the election's over. They're just gonna toss his ass straight in prison.
Yep.
He's gonna have a one-way ticket to Rikers Island. He better jump on that New York City bail settlement quickly so he can get his $3,500 on his commissary bucks.
I mean, it's not funny to joke, but it is funny to joke because so many average regular Americans have faced similar circumstances and don't have the money to fight these corrupt criminals in the justice system. But when it comes to this diversity judge, Merchan, and throwing Trump in jail, the only thing that's going to be stopping Merchant is the Secret Service. So Trump better treat those Secret Service agents like they're kings, because, but they're going to be the only ones who are saying, hey, we're not throwing Trump in Rikers Island, okay? We'll have a house arrest or something,
No, they're going to put Trump. They're going to put.
Trump, I know they're going to try
in Rikers, man. They're going to throw him right in there with Harvey Weinstein before he gets transferred to a prison. So I guess YouTube didn't like our
It's impossible for a stream, to have 700 viewers, more than 700 viewers, and then suddenly drop to 1.
Yeah, I showed you that screenshot where I was in an incognito tab, and it basically disconnected the chat from me.
By the way, I'm watching the stream on a different computer, and I see it right now, and I have showing 1 viewer. And if you're watching it, Agent X, and it's still showing only 1 viewer, that's obviously a lie because there's 2 people watching it.
Yeah, it's a total lie. YouTube doesn't like us because we expose what, like what the Joker says, right? It's all part of the plan. But you have to know what the plan is. And we're exposing the plan. And they don't like that.
Well, there's a lot.
This was all part of the plan.
It's really sad at this point to see anyone go through this, and it triggers a lot for so many different people who have had to deal with these criminals, and they are criminals. Merchant, Engoron, Wallach.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. Tomorrow night, if I'm feeling better, we should definitely play the totality of that Engoron hearing.
We will. Let's do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's a good time to do it, actually.
We should break it down, piece by piece, and go through the documents where they basically said that Wallach flouted judicial orders.
Well, Wallach is someone that I've independently followed for a number of years and seen their legal moves. And in this respect, and by the way, I've also had a lot of contempt hearings, and I know a lot about contempt hearings. I've probably had more contempt hearings in 99% of lawyers. And the purge conditions were never met. Wallach was in direct violation, direct contempt, really, and indirect contempt of several different judicial edicts that Engoron had delivered. And Engoron still spent 90 to 95% of that hearing socializing with the lawyers instead of addressing the merits involving this show cause hearing that I personally attended. So, whatever. Typical.
Well,
If I was in that hearing, they would have thrown me in prison probably for 10 years. And they would have accused me of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars and not paying taxes on any of the revenue that I've, had through whatever business arrangement, and it's so unbelievable. And yes, Wallach is a lawyer, so there's, he's given some leeway there, but this was his own personal situation. It wasn't like he was representing a client. So, whatever. It is what it is.
I'm trying to find the case. You can't even find it on the docket anymore.
Probably sealed it.
Dude, how wild is this? You can't even find this.
Well, the other thing is, right after I attended that hearing, they moved to do everything in person, and they wanted to keep everything off the internet.
Yeah. Before they were having
I was gonna fly in and request to go to the hearing in the settlement conference.
well, it just shows you how fucking corrupt the whole system is, right?
Well, the clerk, Engoron's clerk, who's probably still his clerk and had handled this whole situation with Trump. By the way, she's also, I think, a political candidate. So it doesn't.
Oh yeah, that's right.
If you remember correctly, she was running for some position in the district that she's in the street in New York. It was like some borough political position. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like kind of a neighborhood or multi-neighborhood sort of district in one of the boroughs.
Dude, how wild.
And she had a bunch of pictures of Chuck Schumer up on her campaign website.
How wild is this that you can't?
Why didn't Judge Engoron recuse himself simply on that? The fact that his clerk was running for election and getting endorsements or posting pictures with Chuck Schumer.
Oh, dude, you can't find anything on the I'm on the eCourts website, and I'm searching Donald Trump, and literally you can't find this case.
The other thing is there's so many lawyers who are live streaming that Midas channel where Michael Cohen constantly live streams from. And then they have a bunch of other legal experts like Karen Friedman and
Karen Agnifilo Friedman, the most corrupt dingbat woman in the world who got fired from CNN.
She was the district attorney's office fixer for a while.
Fired her.
Covering up all the scandals over there, engaging in all sorts of unethical conduct. And she made a point today during the live stream of saying that she's never been sanctioned as an attorney. And that's because of two factors. One, because she was in the DA's office and they're never going to sanction the DA. And two, the system is so corrupt that they would never even think of sanctioning, a high-level DA.
Hold on. They don't sanction in criminal cases, right? Because prosecutors.
Well, that's true too.
They pretty much don't even with Brady violations.
They can sanction attorneys in criminal cases, but I think there's a higher standard, isn't there?
Well, you just typically don't see sanctions. Like, remember in the Rittenhouse case, you had Binger, and the judge was like openly hostile to him, and he didn't get sanctioned, even though he kept flouting the judge's orders. You just don't see, like, yeah, you see sanctions in civil cases for quote unquote frivolous claims.
Well,
And
my
that's the
point was,
thing,
yeah, Karen Friedman tried to imply that she's like this very ethical attorney because she's never
which
been
not.
sanctioned, and it's just completely false.
Yeah. Dude, this is wild that you cannot find this case anywhere on. I don't even know. Let me.
Are you talking about so they tried to somewhat protect these Trump filings?
Yeah, like I can't find.
The other problem is that most people in this country just take whatever order is issued. Until recently, of course, people have started to wake up, but before that, people would just assume that whatever order came out of the judicial system is like, what's the word, like very credible or authentic, and that something like if it was an order like this, like there must have been genuine fraud or genuine misconduct, and that's for at least 50% of these cases. That's probably not true at all.
So if you search like New York court search and go to eCourts and you search there's a justice search, judge search. I'm searching just Engoron, and it's coming up with no results. They've protected the hell out of this guy.
I looked up Engoron earlier today because I had to spell check Engoron's last name, and the only thing I could find was his chambers location, which is like the most basic public information.
Well, I'm doing this so you can find cases by the judge's name, and you're telling me he has no cases right now? It's ridiculous. They've totally insulated. They don't want people looking at this docket.
I think they saw what happened with Wallach and the egregious misconduct that Wallach had participated in and engaged in, and how it was used, and how they turned a blind eye to that while at the same time hitting Trump with all this nonsense. And they really wanted to lock this down because they knew how important it was.
Yeah, go to eCourts, click eCourts there. I'll show you how corrupt this is. Go to eCourts right there in the middle. Right, click that. Now do let me hold on. Let's see. Hold on. Let me do another search because I may have clicked the wrong thing. All right, hold on. All right, I think I have it now. Never mind. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I found it. Okay, I wanted to look at the docket. Show e-file doc. I want to see if Haba withdrew. Order to show cause decline.
I wonder why guys like Stephen Donziger, who was disbarred in New York, has not kind of stuck his neck out for Alina Habba here.
They probably don't know what we know, what's going on. Hold on, I'm just hold on. Well, I'm just looking to see, trying to find a document they filed so I can look to see if she's still listed. Oh shit. Hold on. I want to see if she's still listed on the signature block. Oh no, dude, she's hold on. Oh yeah, dude, they took her off the case. Holy shit. They
When you
totally took her off the case. Yeah, they definitely have a disciplinary action pending against her. Here, let me show you. Let me download this document. I'll send it to you on.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
If you go to the signature block, she used to be the primary filer for the case for Trump's legal team, and now all of a sudden,
Speaking of doing a deep dive on that contempt hearing with Wallach, we should do a deep dive when we are capable of doing it on I don't know if you want me to say the name right now, but
dude, no, dude, you get the thing
yeah,
I sent
I'll pull
you.
it up.
So that was in, I guess, their opposition memorandum to the motion for partial summary judgment. So this was in response. So go down to the signature block. Go up, go up, go up. No, go up, go up, go up. That's the sort. No, that's not it. Go up, right there. Yeah. See Michael Medeo, Haba Medea and Associates. There's no Elena Haba, even though they have her email address on there.
It's terrible. It's awful. I think they're trying to they're trying to blow one small. Arguably, it's not a mistake that Alina Haba made in this lawsuit, which is not moving for a jury trial after.
No, it's not that.
Notice.
It's the fact that she was sanctioned for $1 million
by Middlebrooks, a federal judge in Florida.
No, it was in New York, the Northern District of New York, I think.
No, Middlebrooks sanctioned. It was down in Florida. But anyways, doesn't matter. So
let me see.
It was in the lawsuit against Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I think it was in New York. Hold on. Trump.
Middlebrooks is down in Florida.
Judge sanctions Trump Haba nearly $1 million for completely frivolous Clinton suit. Let's see. Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. A Florida-based federal judge has ordered nearly $1 million in sanctions against Donald Trump and his attorney Alina Haba, a mastermind of strategic abuse of judicial process. Damn, bro. Not good. It's not good, bro.
No, it's not. I mean, that's why Alina Haba is doing all this PR now, instead of actually just going into court and filing these lawsuits.
Well, they don't want another sanction against her, right? Because they'll just pile that onto any disciplinary action.
Well,
there's no doubt that she is facing a disciplinary action in New York over this sanction. Like
so
they did it to Rudy. They're definitely doing it to her. And she's pulled out of a lot of this stuff because they don't want another sanction against her. And they knew she'd probably get sanctioned in this case. So they yanked her off of it.
I thought that Alina Haba got sanctioned $7,500 because she initially signed the complaint.
Let's see. What, in this case? In
this decision today by Engoron.
No, she wasn't sanctioned. It was that Michael guy.
So okay, I didn't read this decision, but the Midas Touch, Karen Adelphia, whatever her Latin middle, Karen Friedman, and the other guy that she always does these live streams with, said that Haba got sanctioned $7,500.
No,
And
go
so I
back
didn't
to
have time to actually check the facts on that.
no, go to the last page of the order. You can see it right there. Scroll up a little bit. There you go. Scroll up. Right there, right there, right there. Plaintiff's motion for sanctions is granted in part to the extent sanctioning Michael Medeo.
Michael Medeo.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is they yanked her off of this case to avert any further sanctions because there's no doubt she's facing a disciplinary action, and in New York they're confidential until you're disciplined. So the law partner is the one who signed the brief, and he's the one who got sanctioned. So Haba didn't get sanctioned; the law partner did.
Yeah, Karen Friedman is a liar.
Yeah, she's a total liar, total corrupt. She's like Alvin Bragg fired her because she. Just imagine how corrupt you have to be to have Alvin Bragg fire you.
If you're an attorney, I mean, I'm not an attorney. And frankly, I didn't have time to read this, but Karen Friedman, this is her full-time job to live stream on Midas, whatever the name of her channel is.
Midas Touch.
Midas Touch, okay. And they have like 1 million subscribers, and she's calling out Alina Haba for getting sanctioned in this decision, and she wasn't even sanctioned. She's an attorney. So in fact, I would encourage anybody out there to file a bar complaint against Karen Friedman. I'll get her full name.
Haba should sue her for defamation.
Defamation, absolutely. I'm going to file a bar complaint against Karen Friedman for those statements. So I'm going to download that video as quickly as possible. And again, I would urge everybody else out there to download. We'll link to the video. Download it just to make sure in case they try and delete it or edit it, if they're capable of doing that, and getting that clipped out and making sure you send that to the grievance committee in New York.
Yep. All right, dude. I gotta get to bed. I'm not feeling well. I think we
went way above. Okay. All right. Hope you feel better. Okay.
Right,
see you later. Bye.
Thanks for watching Command HQ with Brooke and Agent X. We'll see you next time.